everyone. Welcome to episode 76 of the Penciled In Podcast. Today, I'm on my own as we are on slightly different times today. We're talking with Ted Dastick Jr. Welcome to the show, Ted. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. We have actually previously met, so this will be kind of fun to catch up, so to speak, and get your origin story happening here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Sorry, I scared Lindsey away.
It was a little too late for her. It's like midnight over there now, so you're stuck with me.
No
So
worries.
Ted, you do work in sketch cards, of course, and you've been doing it for almost as long as I have. But we'll go back to like we usually do in the very beginning. How did you get involved with art to begin with? Is it something you always did?
Yeah, pretty much since the dawn of time, I've been drawing any time, any place, anywhere, as long as I had, something to draw with and a pad. My grandmother always made sure she had art pads for me when I went to her house because that's all I did. I just sit and would draw nonstop, morning, noon, and night.
Oh, that's really something. What did you draw?
Um, I've always been into monsters and stuff like that, so that was usually the bulk of what I drew, and comic book stuff, Spider-Man, things like that. Anything from Star Wars. It was just, uh, yeah, I was into like weird stuff. I didn't just draw people or landscapes or anything like that. It was usually some kind of monster.
What kind of monsters, may I ask, were you getting into the
Well, I mean, my dad was really into comics and cards and old monster movies. So, just growing up, I kind of had that around me all the time. So, anywhere I looked, there was, a creature from the Black Lagoon or Dracula or Frankenstein or something, whether it was a book or, just a painting or a picture or something or whatever. I kind of had that culture around me all the time. So it just really rubbed off on me and I was way into it.
Oh, cool. You mentioned your dad had cards. So your dad was a card collector?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't like the people now where they're fanatical about it. But, for instance, I knew about Mars Attacks as long as I could remember because my dad had the original cards from 1962.
Wow.
So, stuff like that. Yeah, he was really into a lot of that stuff and, sports cards as well. He was a bit of a hoarder and collected a lot of different things, but mostly comic books. But yeah, toys, cards. I had it all over the place.
So you were already familiar with the card world, well, and
Mhm.
collecting world. That's something you've is part of your DNA, I guess, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being a kid and we're talking mid 80s when I was able to collect my own stuff. Was right around the time when like Garbage Pail Kids came out. I distinctly remember being at Wawa, which is a convenience store down here, and seeing Garbage Pail Kids packs on the candy shelf for the first time. And I got a pack and it was just so cool. And, beyond that, I was collecting Alf trading cards, and Back to the Future 2 had a trading card set out, the Batman movies. So, and later on, I don't know if it was late 80s or early 90s, but they did like a follow up Mars Attack set called Dinosaurs Attack.
Okay.
And that was like my Mars Attacks growing up.
Oh,
Super violent, way bloodier than kids my age should have been collecting. But it was kind of the same thing my dad did when he was younger. So, yeah, you're right. It has really been in my DNA.
do you still collect any of those things?
Oh yeah, way too much.
Oh,
I've had to really focus my collection because there's just so much out there,
yeah.
and they pump out new sets constantly. I can't keep up with it both mentally and monetarily. Topps puts out Star Wars sets like there's no tomorrow, and you really have to be picky about which ones you get now because it's just too much, it's too expensive, and you run out of room eventually. So that's kind of where I'm at. I did start going through a lot of my older stuff, and I unloaded. Oh, geez, we had a yard sale a couple years ago, and I must have got rid of 10, 15,000 cards.
Whoa.
I had amassed so much, and a lot of it, I didn't really care about anymore. So I really kept what I'm into, which is mainly Star Wars cards. I collect autograph cards and various things like that. But yeah, I'm most definitely a collector. Probably a collector first and an artist second. I have a lot of stuff.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that about you. I thought you were an artist first and
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
No,
well,
not
maybe
really.
it's like 50-50 now, but
Do you collect promo cards at all? We've had several promo card collectors on, and it's been interesting to hear their journey.
yeah, I mean, I've amassed a lot of them. I wouldn't say I collect them specifically. I do try to hang on to ones that go with the sets I do collect, but for the most part, I mean, I've got boxes and boxes of promos that I don't know what to do with them, honestly. I guess I should sell them, but
Oh,
it's such an
you
undertaking to go through them all at some point. I don't want to just give them away because I know a lot of them have some value. I'm definitely not going to yard sale them, you know?
Well, if
Uh,
there are promo card collectors watching this, you might be getting messages to
That's fine, but it's so, I mean, it's so haphazard in boxes. I mean, we were chatting a little bit. I usually attend the Philly Non-Sports Show every time because I'm not too far away. And every time I leave there, I've got a stack of 20 new promos in my hand. And, some of it is stuff I want to collect. Other stuff is just, more
came.
filler for the pile. And it goes in a box with the previous show's cards and then the previous show's cards. And before you know it, you end up with a lot of stuff.
So do you display any of your collections or does it all stay in a box?
No, they're all in boxes. The stuff that I really care for, I do put in binders. Because I do once in a while pull them out and flip through them, and I like to look at the stuff
Yeah, it's
for
it's
myself. I don't display it, I'm not trying to show off my collection or anything. It's just something internally I enjoy doing.
oh that's really nice to hear. You're not doing it for the money, you're not doing it for anything, just because you like it.
Yeah. I mean, I do so it's give and take. I do sell things and you know, most of that money, will go towards home stuff, but I do reinvest part of it into buying the next thing.
What do you think? Well, we'll get back to the art in just a second, but seeing as we're on the collector thing, are you going to stay on the same track that you're on with the Star Wars and maybe, I don't know, Garbage Pail Kids? You still collect them
Yeah,
too?
no, I not so much. It's mainly Star Wars stuff. Um, it's getting smaller and smaller. What I have refocused my collecting on is a lot of the smaller press sets, and I found a lot of like independent creators that have the means to make their own trading cards. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're pretty authentic and pretty awesome as well. So, I mean, I'm really into horror movies, and Fright Rags has been putting out a lot of horror movie sets,
Yeah.
which I've been lucky enough to do sketch cards for a few. But those are some of my favorites. I mean, I never dreamed one day there would be a Reanimator card set, but I have it. And, My Bloody Valentine and all these crazy movies that when I was a little kid, I never would have dreamed there would be a card set for one day. So that's kind of been fun. And they tend to be more limited in release. So so far, a lot of them have held their value, which you can't really say for a lot of the Star Wars or really mass produced stuff.
And the smaller companies, though it takes them a while to be able to put out sets like that, they are able to focus on the things that the bigger companies won't touch,
Mhm.
because it will never make them a profit. The
Yeah,
small ones can maybe fill those spaces, so it's rather interesting
for
to.
sure. And it depends on, the size of the company because, the smaller ones, licenses are hard to come by or too expensive to get. So, they tend to be a little more creative in what they're putting out. But you get that step up, which is more like a Fright Rags, where they do work with all these licensees and they can put out official merchandise, which is really cool. But I'm also enjoying buying, like I said, a lot of the bootleg merchandise. Um, I've got a handful of
May
cards.
I ask what you mean by the bootleg merchandise?
So they're just not licensed.
Ah,
There's I say a company, but I think it's just one guy called Ray Gun Cards, and he
mhm.
puts out super small run. I mean, I'm talking 50 to 75 sets of just 9 cards, but they're in a wax pack and everything. And, it's stuff that I've never that there's never been a card set for, like the first Jaws movie or Home Alone or Critters or trying to think what else I've picked up from. A lot of neat stuff. So I think because they keep them so limited, it kind of flies under the radar. And I hope I'm not getting anybody in trouble by talking about it that way. But it's just they're really cool. They're really well done, and they're not real expensive either. But it's something that I wouldn't have otherwise, and
Okay.
I really appreciate that people like them are out there doing that. There's another one called Jack's Attic that does a lot of stuff like that. Actually, I thought I had a card right here. Hang on one second. I don't believe I put it away that I just got from Jack's Attic. Darn it. I don't know what I did with it. I told you I've got stuff all over the place.
Totally understand. As you
Yeah, I don't know where
remind
I
me.
put it, but yeah. So anyway, look them up. There's really cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
There's literally something for everybody.
Yep, that is for sure. Um, Getting back to the sketch cards, how, I mean, obviously, you already knew about trading cards and all this, but did
Mhm.
you have sketch cards and any of the stuff that you collected? How did you discover sketch cards?
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't exist until right around you and I started working on them. I mean,
Well, they did exist a bit before, but it was like
yeah, not
in
too
smaller.
long though. Yeah, I know the first sketch card set I think was a Simpsons card set, and that
Okay.
was it wasn't like they hired a million artists. There were a couple, Matt Groening himself, but a couple like legit Simpsons artists they got to do them, and they're worth like thousands of dollars today. But yeah, so being a collector, like I said, when I was a kid, I was really into the entertainment type stuff. And as I got older, I discovered sports cards. And, my focus, I guess, when I was like 12, 13 or so, really shifted into the sports card world. And that's what I collected for the longest time. And then it was I know specifically what it was. It was the Star Wars 30th anniversary top set. So 2007, I guess it was.
Yeah, I believe so.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. 30 years from 77. They released that set, and I was at the card shop and saw they had a box. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I haven't bought Star Wars cards since the Return of the Jedi set in 1983." So I got a box, and I think I don't remember if it was an autograph and a sketch or one or the other per box. But I got a sketch card of Boba Fett by John Watkins Chow, who I don't believe does cards anymore. And I sold it for like $200. And I think I only spent maybe $50 on the box at the
Wow.
time. So that was my introduction into sketch cards. And, I looked into it a little further, and I saw a lot of the other Star Wars sketches. And I hadn't really drawn a whole lot at that point. I kind of, my art kind of fell by the wayside a little bit as I got through high school and all. And I thought, well, this is something I could probably do. Uh, I like to draw and I like Star Wars. Let's see if I can and figure out a way to make it happen. So what I did was I just started researching online, and I found the Scoundrel Art message boards, which was where all the cool sketch card artists at the time were hanging out, you among them. And I just kind of like poked around a little bit, kind of got the lay of the land and what people were doing. And I reached out to Leah Battle, who had a different last name at the time, but I don't know why I singled her out, but I sent her a message. I'm like, hey, I really am interested in doing this stuff. Who can I contact at Tops? Because I mean, you're talking 2007, right? Is that what I said?
Yep.
The internet, of course, was a thing, but there wasn't always somewhere to go to find somebody to contact.
No.
And now it's like I think you can go to the website and it's like artist click here to contact us.
There's
That
an
didn't
email
exist.
for that. There wasn't.
Yeah, no, that didn't exist back then. So she gave me the name of the art director at the time, Dave, who I think you've interviewed in your book. And I basically had to scour the internet to find this guy. And I ended up contacting him through a post he made for something on the StarWars.com blog website. It was so roundabout. But he replied right away and he was like, "Hey, sure, send me some samples," which I did. And then I didn't hear anything for months and months and months. And I thought my sketch card dreams were were dashed right then and there. But I kept at it and I started looking up other card sets and companies that were out there, and I landed on Brigent.
Mm.
And their website was pretty simple, but it was nice and easy to contact them. So I did, and I heard back from Tom Breyer almost immediately, and he was like, "Yeah," he gave me a really quick rundown of how it works, and he's like, "Give me a call sometime, and I'll tell you how it works." So I called him, ended up talking to him on the phone for, geez, I feel like it was almost an hour, and he really just explained everything to me from
Oh,
top to bottom, at least how he operated in the sketch card world. And that started a dialogue between he and myself. And I ended up working. My first set was a set for Brigent. And it took a while for it to release too. There were a lot of delays. It didn't come out till almost a year maybe after I had done the cards. It was classic movie posters. I think it was called vintage movie posters, something like that. And I did like over 200 cards, I believe. And, at the time, he's like, "Yeah, I need 200 cards." Okay, that sounds easy enough. You don't realize how many cards 200 cards
yeah,
is
it's
until
shocking, right?
you're staring them down and realizing you have to draw something on each and
Oh,
every
okay,
one of
200
them.
cards.
Yeah,
And then you
200.
open the box and you look at it, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. So that was trial by fire. I mean, I hadn't drawn much at that point. And looking back at my cards now, they were okay. They could have been better, but I didn't have the right materials. That was another thing too. I had to look up what you guys were using. You were
That
using,
and the
I
card
don't think
stock
you
was
were
a
even
little
using a lot of
different.
paints.
Oh, I didn't paint at all at that time.
No.
I mean, well, not on the cards. I didn't paint on the cards at all. Not too many people did. I think there were a few, but the card stock was quite different back then too,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, the top stuff they had like printed backgrounds, so it probably added to the difficulty in drawing on them. But the Brigent stuff was just almost like paper. So I invested in some markers because it seemed like that was the
Yeah.
medium of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that and got through those, and through all this, I kept, I didn't pester them, but I want to say every 4 or 5 months, I would shoot Dave another message. "Hey, still looking, to work if you need it." Never heard back. And then one day, probably a good year after I initiated contact, my wife called me. I was at work and she's like, "Oh, you got a box here from Tops?" I'm like, "I didn't order anything. Open it up, see what it is." And it was the invitation to work on the Indiana Jones Heritage
Oh my God.
card set. So that was my first set for Tops, and I was super excited. Just being a collector my entire life, getting to work for Tops, was honestly something that I never even dreamed would
Yeah.
happen someday. Because sketch cards didn't exist
No.
when I was collecting as a kid, so my only way to do something like that would be to produce base art, and that was just something I never really um, even thought about going after, at least not at that point. So it took me a while, but yeah, I got in there and been really, for the most part, been enjoying it ever since. It's only
I
been a
was
few times
I was
where
gonna say, has the thrill gone, or has it changed or faded, or is
um,
it, do you have the same excitement for doing it now, or
I do. It really varies on the set and the subject matter. I will never ever do 200 cards for a set ever again. That's for sure. No matter what it is, it's just not fun after the 50th card. You lose interest and you want to do something else. So I, what keeps it interesting is not only the different subjects, but being able to put my own spin on some of the things. Um, because I will do cards that are themed around stuff that I'm not necessarily into, but I'm like, okay, well, I've got this. How can I make it fun and not a slog, for the next week or 2 weeks or however long it takes me to do it? So that helps. And just taking on smaller amounts really helps.
I think for most companies now the numbers have drastically dropped.
Mm-hmm.
They take more artists on, and you don't have
Yeah.
to do those ridiculous numbers that we had to do way back in the beginning.
Yeah, which is great because then everybody can just produce better work.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, but it was the beginning of all that stuff back then. And
Mm-hmm.
do you still work for Tops? What companies do you work for now?
Literally everybody. Well, not literally. The only company I have not ever worked for is Rittenhouse Archives.
Okay.
They, and I've spoken to them numerous times at the Philly show. I guess there's just not a role for me there, which is fine. Everybody else keeps me busy. But yeah, the top stuff, I still work with them. I haven't done Star Wars in a few years now.
Really?
Kind of a weird thing. They just don't contact me anymore. I don't know why. But I've been doing Major League Baseball sketch cards for Tops.
Well, that's
So
cool.
different department, different art director. I guess there's nobody in the company talks to one another. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, and I love doing those. That was kind of another not only working for Tops, but getting to do baseball cards was just it's kind of unreal a little bit.
Yeah, I had tried to get into the sports department and just never could. Now I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to, but at that
Yeah.
time I was like, oh, I'd really like to try it and stuff.
Yeah, I don't chase it so much anymore. If the invite comes, it's very rare that I'll turn something down, unless they want an ungodly number of cards. But yeah, I mean, I have good relationships, I guess, with Tops. Maybe not on the Star Wars side. I don't know why they don't ask me to do any. I've done thousands, but yeah, Tops, Upper Deck, and literally everybody else. The Pernas,
Cryptozoic, have you worked for them?
Cryptozoic. Yeah, I've done a lot, and they're another one I haven't heard from them in a few years. And same thing, I talk to them when I'm at the Philly show. I don't know what's going on over there. They don't put out as much as they used to anyway. But yeah, I was doing a lot with them. And then unfortunately, George Nadeau, who was the art director there, he passed away. And
He was so nice.
he was great. And I haven't done anything with them since. So
No.
maybe I was in his Rolodex and he took it to heaven or something. I don't know. But yeah, I haven't done anything for Cryptozoic in a while. It's been a lot of smaller press stuff, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. There's a big variety of topics out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference that you like to draw in the sketch?
I still like monsters.
Still like monsters, eh? Well, there are a lot
Yeah,
of monster sets out there, I think.
yeah. Well, that's I was so happy when they brought back Mars Attacks
Yeah.
because like I said, I grew up with that, and being able to be part of that when it was resurrected was really awesome. I actually had reached out to Dave probably 2 years before they did the Mars Attacks Heritage set for the 50th anniversary. And I was like, hey, the 50th anniversary is coming up in a few years. If you decide to do anything, I'd love to be part of it. And he replied, yeah, we don't have any plans. And that was it. And then, however long later, I ended up seeing, I don't know if it was in Previews magazine or something, an ad for the Mars Attacks Heritage set coming out. I'm like, oh, okay, so you are doing something. And I was able to get in on that. And I think I did like 100 cards. I'm like, it's Mars Attacks. Give me all you got. And I made sure I painted every one, and that was really because I wanted to honor the original set, which was all paintings.
Yeah.
Um,
So I look, well, I've seen your work for years now. You have actually a variety of styles. You do ink, you do,
mhm,
I think, probably marker and some paint now.
mhm.
What's your favorite? What do you like to work with the most?
What do I like the most?
Or do you
Um,
like variety?
I don't really have a preference. I just like mixing it up and keeping it interesting each time. Sometimes the amount of time I have to work on the cards will dictate what I use.
Yeah.
Uh, the paints probably take me the longest to work with. So if I don't have enough lead time, they're not getting painted. It's going to be either markers or I don't remember the last time I did just a pencil sketch in anything. I always try to do some kind of ink or add color to it. Um, yeah, I don't really have a favorite. I kind of like mixing it up and doing a lot of things.
Do you have a sketchbook that you use? Are sketchbooks part of your creative existence?
No, it's really the cards, and sometimes I'll just do larger pieces, for myself. Once upon a time, I used to do more paintings on canvas, but yeah, I just don't have the time for it, honestly. So
Oh,
when I do larger pieces, a lot of times now I do that because, like I mentioned earlier, I collect autographs, and when I go to conventions, I like to have, a 9 by 12 or 11 by 14 drawing, painting, whatever that I did, and I get the celebrities to sign that, and that's fun.
so what autographs have you managed to collect from
Oh,
particular movies or genre or TV
um,
series?
well, I go to a lot of horror conventions, so there's definitely a lean towards horror.
Uh-huh.
You know what? I was going to ask you beforehand if I should have anything ready, but here I'll grab some stuff. And I don't. Hopefully, it shows up on the camera. So I started doing. So this was Alan Harris, who was the actor in the Bosk suit
Yeah.
in Empire Strikes Back. So I started going after all of the bounty hunters as they were doing conventions. So the guy that created IG-88, Bill Hargreaves, Catherine Monroe was Zuckuss. I got Jeremy Bulloch to sign the Boba Fett. I ended up mailing it to him because he stopped doing conventions. And I left blank spaces for when I finally meet the actor that was Forlon. And I'll probably do a Dengar, even though he's been gone a long time. Here's Penn and Teller. I got them to sign that one.
Did you really? Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, Penn's signature is terrible, but Teller's really cool. Was that Cactus Jack, the wrestler? John Cleese.
Oh
I'm
no, you didn't. Oh,
after, so, yeah,
Lindsay will be so jealous.
yeah. We'll talk again. So she can be Jake the Snake, the wrestler. John Anderson, the singer from Yes.
Yeah.
What else?
Wow.
Dan Aykroyd.
Oh my God, I'm jealous.
He was super cool. Daniel Stern from Home Alone. I mailed that in. That I didn't meet him in person. Dominic Pace, who played a bounty hunter in The Mandalorian. He's blinking, you miss him, but he's in there. Zach Wild, guitar player. And oh, that's not signed, but that's a Rob Zombie painting I did when I had COVID.
That's awesome. I love the way you set that up and everything is nice and the same size and
Yeah,
everything.
it wasn't like that.
You're so organized. I would have done it
Yeah,
all different
I
sizes
just
and
got these. Oh, my doggies are all over. Yeah, I just got these not too long ago. Because really, I just had them in like a manila envelope up until this point. But this is kind of like how I said with the cards. I like to keep them in binders so I can look through them. These things are great for this stuff.
that's an awesome binder you have with all with and beautiful artwork. You really did a nice
Nice.
job with all of that.
And that's just my 9 by 12s. I have one with 11 by 14s too. Uh,
Really?
yeah. And then I've got for a long time, like I said, when I used to do more paintings on canvas, I was doing that and lugging these, gigantic canvases, the conventions, and getting them signed. I have, and there a lot of them were cast pieces. So like I got the entire cast of the original Evil Dead on a painting.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
a whole bunch of people from Dawn of the Dead on a painting. I got Roddy Piper on a They Live painting that I did. Um, it's cool because one, being a collector, it's something that nobody else has. Uh, you know, it's unique to me, which is really awesome. And two, a lot of times when you go to these conventions, you can be rushed through the lines because they're trying to get as many people through as they can. Uh, it tends to get people to stop for a moment,
Yeah,
and it kind of invites a little bit more interaction, which is nice.
that's really something. I'm blown away. I really love that collection you have. I hope you'll show them off a little bit and keep us all up to date on your next autographs. Do you have a plan? Do you?
No, a lot of it is last minute. The Zach Wild piece, the guy playing guitar, I didn't know I was going to that show. My cousin gifted me a meet and greet pass literally 2 hours before I had to leave, and I just scribbled that thing as fast as I could because I knew I was going to meet him. And it was the same thing. I mean, he was super into it. And I got to chat with him for a little longer than everybody else did, just because
Oh,
he was asking me
cool.
questions about it, which is really fun.
Yeah, that is fun. So you don't have like, I'd really love to get so and so's autograph just off the top of your head? No?
Not really. I mean, out of everything I've gotten so far, that John Cleese piece I showed you might be my favorite.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely love Monty Python. And given I assume he lives across the pond, he's just a guy I never thought I would ever get to meet one day. And sometimes it's luck. It's not always sit down conventions. Like in his instance, we went to a theater that was showing Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
John Cleese was there to do a Q&A afterwards. So we got through the whole thing, and he had a paid meet and greet that was like $200 or maybe more than that. And I wasn't paying that. So I just hung out with my cousin outside the theater afterwards. And maybe a half hour after the show, he came out to head to the bus. Mr. Cleese, can you sign an autograph? Yeah, sure. So, and the same thing, I got to chat with him for maybe like 2 minutes. I was asking him some Faulty Towers questions. It was really cool.
Wow, that's really awesome. So you're really good at managing to squeeze all this in around your day job because this isn't your day job. You have another job.
I do. I'm the director of marketing for a flooring retailer. So I'm managing all of the advertising for 14 stores. Keeps me busy.
And that's completely different from your creative endeavors.
It is. I mean, it's still a creative outlet. I mean, I'm designing ads, which aren't glamorous. It's sale, buy this now. But it's really cool knowing that stuff that I'm doing is literally being seen by millions of people. They could probably care less, and I'm sure a lot of it ends up in their trash can. But it's still pretty cool.
It
You
is.
know, yeah, and this stuff it's different, and it really is my creative outlet because I don't get to draw my monsters when I'm at work.
But because you have a day job, it gives you the freedom to pick and choose a little bit.
It
Well, it's
does.
kind of, I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword, if you like. It's gives you permission to say no if you don't want to do something because you have a day job. But at the
Yeah,
same time, you have to manage your time around all that, which must
yeah.
be
I mean,
hard.
my artwork isn't my source of income, my main source of income anyway. Don't get me wrong, I love the money that I make doing the
Yeah.
artwork.
Yeah.
But I can show you this. I don't know if you can see this bin right here has
Yes.
a lot of my art supplies, but there's also all my blanks from artist proofs and returns from all these sets I've worked on. Ingrid, I've probably got 300 APs in that box from various sets just because I don't take the time to do them unless they're required at the time that I'm returning stuff. I very rarely just spend the time to do them. I'm not doing it to make money. I do this because I love doing it and it's fun. Do I make a few bucks sometimes? Sure. But really, I don't dip into that well unless I'm doing a show or something and I need to have something to put on my table. If a collector contacts me and asks, "Oh, do you have this, that, or the other available?" We'll work out stuff that way. But for the most part, I do what is required of me for the set and then put the rest away. I've got
Judging by the amount of stuff you have on the bin, I'm
yeah,
guessing you don't go into that bin very often. I mean,
no,
if your
no.
office works the way mine does.
Like, look, I mean, here's some blanks right here. They're not in the bin yet, but they're going in there the next time I open it.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself going, staying in the sketch card world? Do you see yourself maybe stressing your collecting habits more, or would you like to maybe explore your own fine art side on your own? What do you see
Um,
yourself going through?
I really enjoy doing the cards. It's a lot of fun to work on licensed stuff. To me, that's just really cool.
Yeah.
And I think where I'm at right now, I've got a pretty good balance of, not making myself sick over it, because I have been there too, to where, you've got deadlines and hundreds of cards that are due, and you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning just trying to get stuff done. Um, and it can be bad for your health. I don't know how many people realize they get a sketch card and they might poo-poo it or say, oh, it's not that good, but you have no idea sometimes how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into all these things. I mean, I was doing sketch cards at a hospital one time.
Really?
Not that I was the
Yeah.
patient, but it's kind of like I was just bringing them everywhere I could to get them done. I've drawn them in the car on car trips. Um,
Been there,
you know
done. Yeah.
and part of that comes with my day job working in advertising. Everything is deadline driven, and I'm used to pushing deadlines to the max, and I do that with my cards. I'm no saint there, but I don't believe I've ever never fulfilled my commitment to something.
Wow.
So
That's pretty admirable.
yeah, it's yeah, I don't like being the reason that something doesn't get done.
And the
If that
nice thing about sketch cards is that, it's there's a because they're so small, there's even if you are on a deadline, there's a limited amount of time you can put on it. It's not like like you're talking about some of the large pieces you've done. Well, it
Mhm.
takes a lot of time to do that.
Yeah.
And over all these interviews that we've done, most of us have a limited attention span.
Hmm.
So it's kind
Yeah.
of nice that,
Yeah.
you're
That's it.
done, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely get that. I'm definitely in that bucket. I do have a limited attention span with some things. I don't know how some people say they spend 8+ hours on a single card. I couldn't do it. I would probably just throw it out before I
I've
spent that
spent
much time on it.
days on a card, but not at the same time. I'll do a few hours and then well, you just have to see something else. But
Right.
if you put all the hours together, it's over a
Yeah.
span
I
of days.
get that, but even in that sense, I hate starting a drawing, painting, whatever it is, and walking away and coming back to it later. I hate
That's
doing that.
interesting.
I mean, sometimes it's a necessity. I mean, you do have to sleep at some point, but uh, I very rarely will start something if I don't have enough time to finish it. It was different when I was doing larger paintings because there, I do enjoy working in oils. Sketch cards really don't afford me that luxury. I mean, it's got to get done and it has to be dry.
Yeah.
Oils, unless you're applying some kind of substrate to it, that it's not getting dry in time. So that was really fun to work in oils. Um, I just I can't do
But
it anymore.
you kind of could, if you were doing it for a project that had a really long
Yeah. And
lead
that's the type of
time.
thing that, with oils and just the nature of them taking so long to dry, it's generally a long play. You're not going to finish a painting in a night. You're just not, because you do sometimes, depending on how you work with it. But you're going to have to let some of it dry before you do other parts. It's a process. And some of that is fun. I get how some people do like that. I know even when I'm just drawing in general, it kind of, it's my happy place. And I'll put my headphones in or play music, and it's really loud and awful music. But I'm able to zone out, and I work a whole lot faster when that happens. I know I'm just focused. I'm going to get it done, and in a few hours, I might get done more than if I only gave myself like an hour or two to work on it, walked away, came back the next day. Um, I it's really easy to break my rhythm, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I kind of get that actually.
Mhm.
Is there a license that you'd really like to work on that you haven't done yet?
I would love to do Disney stuff. I'm a real big Disney fan. I love going to the parks.
Yeah.
There's not really much in the world of trading cards for Disney right now. There's a few sets that have come out in Japan that people are going crazy over, but there's no sketch cards or anything like that. Uh, I would love to be involved in something like that.
I haven't really
And I'm
heard.
talking more the cartoony type stuff.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of cartoony type stuff? Not really.
I used to once upon a time. I did some cartoons for a few magazines. I mean, they were like small magazines. One was Aquarium Fish magazine. I had a couple comics in it. It was kind of cool going to PetSmart and seeing the magazine with my little comic strip in there.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, and this was all before sketch cards. It's kind of where my Ted's Tunes email account came from.
That's right. I remember that. You had
Yeah.
Ted's Tunes. Yes,
Mhm.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
so because I was trying to get more into cartooning type stuff, and I submitted a lot of stuff and got lots of rejection letters, got a few things published, but for the most part, didn't really happen. And by the time I landed in the sketch card world, honestly, cartooning became a quick distant memory. Uh, I jumped all into. I mean, I was drawing Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
Come on.
that's neat.
Nothing's going to compare to that.
So yeah, are you gonna go see the last movie?
For sure.
Yeah.
We actually just went last Sunday. They were showing Raiders in the theater.
Oh, did
Um,
they?
which yeah, I mean when that first came out, I was two, I think, three. So of course I never saw it in the movies, and I've never seen it since. So this was my first time seeing Raiders in the theater. And it was extra cool because got to bring my daughter with me, and that was her introduction to Indiana Jones.
Wow.
And theater had some glitches, which was a bummer. But overall, I mean, she said she enjoyed it, and it's really fun, enjoying a lot of the stuff like this, like even Star Wars and all this other stuff and horror movies, stuff that I liked when I was a kid, getting to share it with my daughter. It's kind of like rediscovering a lot of it all over again.
Do you see her kind of absorbing some of your collecting habits or your interests of any?
Collecting, not so much. She's way into video games, and she's 12, and really likes video games and her phone. She's really good at drawing. Uh, I will say she's got that from me. What's crazy is I do hold my pen weird. Um, I just don't hold it the traditional way. And even when I was a kid in Catholic school, the nuns used to freak out on me because I didn't hold my pen properly. But my daughter holds her pen the same exact way that I do, and that's
Really?
literally through DNA. It's really freaky to see.
Whoa, that I never heard of that before.
She totally inherited that. It's really bizarre.
So, what are kids that are 12-year-olds? Is there any like collecting for them? Have they got any interest in any
Um,
stuff that
I
we do?
mean, I've tried to involve her in my collecting. I've got boxes of cards and opened them with her. A lot of times when she was younger, I've bought her sets and we've gone through them. Um, she just doesn't have that bug.
No.
You definitely got to be into it. It's hard to make somebody interested in that stuff, and I can see that. People like different things. That's fine.
Or if she finds some kind of TV show or video game that she's like, oh my God, about, and then well then when you really get into something, you want to see and have everything that's related to it.
Yeah. No, she's not like that in the collecting sense. I mean, we were at we actually went to a convention last weekend, and they had a lot of anime stuff, and she's into anime, but not any one in particular. So I mean, she got there and she was just like, "Oh my God, anime everywhere!" And she ended up leaving with a couple plushy whatever. I don't even know what the characters are. I'm personally myself not into anime, but she was happy with that. It's not like she had to have or has to have all the Sailor Moon stuff or something like that. Um, she kind of just likes this, that, and the other. Yeah, she's unless it develops some point down the road, she's not a collector.
She sounds like my daughter, who
Yeah.
was never really much of a collector, and now at 25, she's beginning to she's beginning to collect stuff. I guess it comes out later in some people,
It
and
could.
who knows.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who might be wanting to get into sketch cards?
Uh, just, keep at it, keep drawing. Like I said, I've been doing it all my life. I have almost no professional training, and it shows sometimes. I know where my limitations are and what I can and can't do. But yeah, just keep at it. And it's so easy nowadays to go online and find someone to contact to, get you on board. When I actually did the show, the Philly show a year and a half ago, it was the show before you were at, or no, was it after? I can't remember. I'm getting old, Ingrid. Um, Somebody came up to me and was asking me that question, and I gave them some advice, which was the same thing. Go online. Tops is great, Upper Deck is great, but you're better off, shooting for some small press type stuff. And I recommended, Richard Parks, and he ended up working on the Ultraman set, I believe. And he was beyond happy. I mean, that's his foot in the door, and it's great. So yeah, I kind of went the same way. Brygent, they had licenses, but they were a smaller company in the grand scheme of trading cards at the time. Got my foot in the door, and eventually it led to bigger things and drawing for Star Wars. Holy smokes. I mean, I literally professionally drew Star Wars. How cool is that? You
Yeah,
know,
that I totally understand you on that one.
you get it.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you like to see change in the sketch card world?
I think
That's
there's
changed a lot
still,
already, actually.
yeah, it would be great for it to expand beyond the niche that it's in right now. Because like I said, I do the sketch cards for the Major League Baseball sets that Topps puts out. Um, but I don't think in the sports card world they really get sketch cards. And I don't know if it's they don't get it or if they just aren't interested in artwork. I mean, so with sports, it's about autographs, right? I mean, everybody wants autographs. Artwork, I don't know how well that translates to that. And it would be great to see sketch cards just go beyond where they're at right now. Because you will see, and I don't know if it's the right place for it, but you'll get trading cards in boxes of cereal or random things. So cards themselves have applications all over the place, but not sketch cards so much. It would be really neat to like tell somebody, "Hey, I do sketch cards," and they go. Usually, the answer is, "What's that? What are you talking about?" And then I have to explain it to them, and they still don't get it. Even when I show it to them, they still don't get it. So that would be wonderful for it to expand beyond the
Do you have
limited
any
knowledge.
ideas? Do you have any ideas on how to get it to expand?
If I did, I'd be a millionaire.
Well, probably not, actually.
No, you're right. No.
Oops.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, I think just the more that are out there, uh, eventually somebody, the right person's going to see it and jump on it and set the world on fire. And that'll be the end of it. And we'll all be rich. We'll all retire.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. So, as a collector, what would you like to see? What do you think could be new and exciting in the world of collecting for you as a collector? Do you find where am I going with this question? Like you obviously like to collect stuff. Do you find it difficult to find what you like? I guess that's what I want to say.
Um, the internet makes it easy to find anything, but I think what needs to change, or at least would make it a little better, is right now, and maybe this is a pandemic related thing, but I mean, it's always ever since I want to say the 80s and 90s, it became an investment for people, and the card companies grabbed onto that, and now it's almost not affordable anymore for anybody to jump in. It's unless you're already in it, in the world, it's really expensive to jump into this stuff. And I think the card manufacturers, at least the bigger ones, need to tone down the super flashy, glossy, shiny, glittery, everything else that costs an arm and a leg to buy, and really, get back to basics. And one thing that is really, you don't see too many kids in the cards anymore. And you go to like the Philly show and there's kids there, but not a whole lot. And it's just it's a different world right now. Everybody's so distracted, and card companies can't seem to figure that out. They don't know how to get new blood. They're just marketing to the same old collectors, who, they're spending a lot of money now. And I know a lot of longtime collectors that have been turned off because it's gotten to be so expensive. And the card
Now,
companies,
after
yeah,
the pandemic, a lot more people are having a harder time, and
yeah.
people
And the
have
manufacturers, they're catering to the people with the deepest pockets. And I don't know how sustainable that is.
no.
I don't even know if that answered your question. I kind of went off on a little bit of a
Oh
tangent.
no, that's
But
fine.
I
It
mean,
it
that's
it
so as a
makes me
collector,
think.
yeah,
It
that's like where my frustrations are anyway. I can't collect like I used to collect. And it does suck sometimes. I wish that I could collect every Star Wars set that comes out now, but there's too many and most of them are too expensive and
And
they're
I
still
do
good.
agree with you that actually, it's always, aimed at the same people. And
Mhm.
I see a lot of people who used to collect cards and buy things from people like you and me who are getting out of the collecting world now because they're moving on. People move on and get another hobby.
Yeah.
It's become too expensive, or, and there's, as you just said, there are not that many people who are kind of filling those holes.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we all have to
Right.
get together and figure out a way to get
Yeah.
some.
Well, I mean, you're kind of doing it yourself. You've got your long dog cards and you're doing the Kickstarter thing, which is great. It's this smaller press stuff that, is
I'm
really specific to different things that, Tops isn't going to put out, Upper Deck isn't going to put out. And the hope is that, something clicks with a lot of people, and they'll just discover it, realize it can be affordable and it's super fun.
Well,
And
you should put out a set too, I'm sure you could put out something super interesting and
and I've got
on the topic.
ideas. I've got more ideas than time, put it that way. Uh,
Oh, well, hey, welcome to the club, eh? But at one point you kind of got to write them down, and then
yeah,
how do you
I
say
wrote
it?
it down.
Kind
I
of
would,
pick one and see what happens.
yeah, I mean, I've got a concept for a children's book that's been sitting in on a piece of paper for probably 7, 8 years now. I just haven't spent the time to do it. It'd be cool. Um, Trading cards, again, I've got some ideas. Uh, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of work and a lot of
Absolutely.
time, and I'm just not always afforded that, you know.
Well, there are a group of people you can come and talk to anytime if you
Oh, I
want
know.
to.
Oh, I've spoken to Richard about it already, and Robert Jimenez has been pretty helpful too. He's given me some pointers. So yeah, it'll happen at some point. It's just not on my radar at the moment.
Get on it. You
Yeah,
can
I mean, I do put out my own promo cards. At least whenever I do a show or something, I have a card that I give out. You know, um, they're free. I'll usually make like a metal or some other kind of version that I'll sell, and it pretty much recoups the cost that it is to produce the free cards that I'm giving out. But yeah, so I've kind of dipped my toes in it a little bit.
That's cool. That's kind of fun, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love doing it. I'm up to, I think I've done 9 different ones now, eight or
Right.
nine.
I'll have to get some from you. After talking to all these promo card collectors, I've sort of kind of
Yeah.
gotten bugged to a certain extent, although I don't have the time to really look into all of that. I do like the
Sure.
promo card thing. I think
I don't want to make this go too long, but So the last card I did was a take on the Stan Lee
Oh,
Marvel card from 1990, but I made it myself instead of Stan Lee and all the
pretty awesome.
but yeah, I mean I go the whole thing, the front and back. Uh I hope people actually look at these cards because there's a lot of attention to detail. I did a Disney
I'll have to
treasure.
get some from you.
So this was there it is.
Yeah.
So I'm Steamboat Willie on that one, but this was the Upper Deck Disney Treasures card
Nice. That's
that I
nicely
did
done.
like that. Actually I've got a few that I've run out of. This was an old one based on the 77 Star Wars Han Solo card.
I love that.
So it's me and I'm holding a bunch of
Pencils.
paintbrushes and stuff in my hand instead of a blaster. What else have I got?
I've got to
Oh,
get some of these from you.
I'll give you a set. I'm actually out of a couple. So that's a Marvel Masterpieces
Oh, how
where
cool
I'm the
is that?
Hulk.
Oh, neat.
Um, yeah, and these are all, I repainted the originals, but yeah, talk to me later and I'll make sure you get a set. I had a Garbage Pail Kids one that I'm completely out of, and my first one was a Mars Attacks that I'm completely out of. But I've still got a bunch of the others, so I'll take care of you.
I'm thinking of doing a giveaway or something, maybe with a whole bunch of promo cards. That could be kind of cool to maybe include some of
Yeah,
yours.
absolutely. Yeah, I've got a lot.
If you or can get a whole collection of promo cards, that would be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, where can people find you? Do you have all this online that people can look at?
It's around. I'm really terrible at putting my stuff online. If you look me up on Facebook, I have a pretty unique last name. There's not too many Dasticks out there, so I'm pretty easy to find if you look me up. And most of my artwork, I try to make sure is set to public, so you can at least creep around and look at my stuff. But if you send me a friend request, unless you look too weird, I'll probably accept it. And you can keep. I'm either posting artwork or stuff about Star Wars.
Okay. Are you on
Yeah,
Instagram?
Facebook. What's that?
Are you on Instagram?
Yeah, I have an account on everything, but I just don't use it. I don't get it. I can't. I don't understand Instagram. I'm too old.
Yeah, I don't really. Please don't say that. The way you were talking about your youth, it's like, man, no. Wait until you are old to say you're old.
No, I have an Instagram. Once in a while, I'll put something up there, mainly because my daughter tells me to. But that Twitter, I don't know if I have a Pinterest account. I don't know. Most
Interesting.
of my artwork it can be found on my DeviantArt website, which
Who use that?
was a thing for a long time. I don't even know if it still exists. It's been so long since I've updated it. But there's hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces on there.
So you're mostly on Facebook then?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a
So,
long way of telling you on Facebook.
well, I'll get all those addresses from you, and we'll include them in the show notes below.
Okay.
So, any last words before we shuffle on out?
No, if you're an artist, keep drawing, keep it up. If you're a collector, um, hang in there because if you're losing the itch or the longing to do it, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Just look around and you'll definitely find something you like and keep you in the hobby.
I do think in the past few years there've been a lot of a lot of small publishers that have come out, and they all have cool and interesting stuff to collect. And
Yeah, it's amazing and lots of fun.
the ecosystem out there is kind of fluctuating and changing and morphing, and it's kind of nifty.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for having come on to talk to me, Ted. I hope you'll come back on.
Absolutely. Try to work out a time when Lindsey can be on too.
Yep, absolutely. I'm sure she's sleeping like a rock right now. So, all right then. Well, thank you again, and can't wait to have you back.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Ingrid.